Language variation with sexuality and regional variation. The influence that sexuality has on our language has changed as opinions to sex have changed. Paul Baker made a study into the cryptolect of Polari, used between 1930 and 1970, exposing the variations it imposed on English. The socio-elect originated in London and spread to the merchant navy and theatre as an anti-language. It borrowed heavily from the Italian, French, the American Air Force slang, thieves' cant, and drug slang. When homosexuality was made illegal in 1967, such lexical creations as clobber, drag, scarper, and camp became part of the English language. Accents and regional variation. Accents, such as the Liverpudlian Scouse, have distinct vowel sounds, such as a short a sound as opposed to a long r sound. For example, bath instead of bath, and grass instead of grass. The accent shares similarities with Irish Gaelic. For example, the vowel blending of the u in fur and the ai in fair to make them sound the same. The k sound is harsh at the end of words, and the double o in look is elongated. Also, the t sound at the end of words is omitted completely. Scouse, as a dialect, has its own form of slang, including abnabs, meaning sandwiches, and midder, meaning to pester. Typical of the dialect is the addition of s to u to form use, to either pluralize the second person pronoun or merely as an inflection. The Irish accent is a blend of English and Celtic Gaelic, and has developed into something distinctive because of the geographical distance from the United Kingdom. As a result of this, their dialectical lexis is considerably more varied than that of Scouse. For example, banjangst is the past participle of something broken, and is only used in this form. Dingan, meaning very good, and is from the archaic Gaelic. Feck, meaning go, steal, or throw, and Gansey, meaning jumper. There are marked grammatical differences as well, such as the contraction of am and not into amn't, similar to aren't and isn't. To create the past perfect tense, the dialect uses after. For example, the car was after hitting the barrier. Irish also has a second person plural pronoun, use. To express the present continuous, do and be are used. For example, he do be running fast. Dublin English has been researched into by linguist Raymond Hickey. He notes that the dialect is considered prestigious by the rest of the Republic, like received pronunciation is to England. The accent includes closed vowel breaking, which means a pair of vowels enclosed by consonants, such as clean into clean, similar to Geordie. The th sound has been modified to t or d, perhaps for ease of pronunciation, and the t and d sounds at the end of words have been dropped following l or n. For example, melt becomes mel, and bend becomes ben. Estuary English is a growing dialect in and around London, as well as spreading through the UK. David Rosewarner in the early 1980s researched into the dialect, detailing that it was a mixture of Cockney and received pronunciation. It uses such non-standard features as ain't and come for came. For example, I come home yesterday. Also, to create a negative word, the word never is used. Again, another non-standard feature. For example, no I never, or he never went, using the third person form of go as well. Key to dialects is phonetic difference from the standard. For example, estuary English speakers use yod coalescence. For example, a j sound is used instead of a j sound, so dune becomes June. A prominent feature of the dialect is a glottal stop, used by closing the glottis when forming a T sound. Another feature is L vocalization, meaning the words like hospital become hospital. Finally, vowel shortening is exhibited in the pronunciation of shoe as shoe. Linguist Joanna Przedlaka in 2002 studied an area around central London of 50 miles in diameter, showing that estuary English was patchy, however spread around the whole area, and more prominent around the Thames estuary from which it gets its name, and most noticeably spoken by women. Paul Kurzweil tied the spread of estuary English with the increasing use of it by politicians and newsreaders as they try to sound more friendly and trustworthy. As a result of prescriptive attitudes, accents have come under scrutiny, and stereotypes of intelligence, education, violence, criminality, and trust have sprung up. There are certain accents, for example the Brummie accent spoken in Birmingham, that have been noted best for comedy, whereas Scouse equals energetic and Geordie is most associated with criminals. However, of course, these are just stereotypes. Paul Kurzweil investigated the different dialects in Milton Keynes, a new town formed in the 1950s that rapidly increased in population throughout the century. This brought about many different dialects from all over the country, forming a mesh of them, with Milton Keynes at its centre. Kurzweil identified children's language as a mixture of their parents, or their carers, and those around them, such as their friends, whose parents might have come from different locations. This has created the distinctive Milton Keynes accent, which is a variety of all. This is a term called coinization, i.e. forming a new dialect from merging existing dialects, as well as exhibiting dialect levelling, i.e. reduction of differences between local dialects or sociolects for possible cohesion. Furthermore, the children of the differing dialects have a higher likelihood of exhibiting code switching. For example, speaking Cockney at home, received pronunciation at school, and Jamaican Creole with friends or social groups. In other words, code switching is the ability to switch dialects or sociolects depending on the situation. Linguists Robert Hopper and Christopher Zahn investigated attitudes towards status and solidarity. Their results showed attitudes of high status, whereas regional accents showed a leaning more towards solidarity. Leslie Milroy hypothesized that there are two forms of networking, closed and open. In a closed network, the individuals know each other well and have a high network strength. In an open network, they are merely acquaintances and have a low network strength. Accents and sociolects in closed networks tend to be non-standard and regional to show trust and friendliness, whereas in an open network, the accent is more likely to be received pronunciation and a more formal situation. Peter Trudgill thought that class-determined vernacular, i.e. your class determined your dialect, whereas Leslie Milroy gave a contrasting view, stating that societies and communities determined vernacular, and closed networks tended to have a non-standard dialect regardless of class. Thank you for watching. You have been listening to a StudyGuys production.